This is Rob Carbone, and you're listening to BD4, where there's no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis.
Barrett, some shake and bake, hits a three. That's alive in the crowd with Barrett. 5 on the 24. Barrett previously in the air ball. The drive, the land, backs him home. Gets it back, keeps it on Barrett. Barrett for three. RJ Barrett from down. Quick trigger three. Gets another triple. Looking for more. Went to the buzzer. And it's gone. J.R. Smith from way downtown at the buzzer. Novak, good open look. Puts it in. To Ewing. That'll make the guard more.
Ewing faced a double team, but still was able to hit.
Knox with the finish. And the foul. Novak, good open look. Puts it in. Excellent ball move.
Houston ducks under. Got it! With 8 tenths left.
What is going on, guys? This is Rob Carbone coming at you with another episode of BD4, where there is no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. So this time around, episode 107, we had a couple of special guests. Once again, my cousin Mike and a friend of mine, Chuk. Basically, we just pretty much previewed and talked about the upcoming NFL draft on Thursday. As you are listening to this, it's Wednesday night, the night before the draft. So we talked a couple hours ago, just about the upcoming NFL draft and who the New York Giants in particular should be looking at, and who they should be looking at in the later rounds as well. So we talked a lot on that. Pretty much that was the majority of the episode. Now I'm not the biggest NFL fan, so most of the episode is those you'll see those two giving their insight, and I'm just kind of asking the questions because I'm not the biggest NFL guy, but we did touch a little bit on the Knicks and on the NBA draft, which whenever that may be, it'll be something we're all keeping an eye on as well. So that's what this episode is going to be about. But yes, let's talk real briefly about the Knicks and their upcoming draft and their choices. We've kind of discussed this in the past with who the Knicks should look at versus who they will and might potentially be looking at. It's not it's not the deepest draft class. The prospects in this class aren't the most talented, but there are some options here that do intrigue me to some extent. I've wrote a couple of. First of all, I think they need a point guard badly, and they've been looking for a point guard forever. I don't think that point guard is going to come through free agency. I'm not a big fan of anybody out there. I'm not a Van Vliet guy, maybe as a last resort, but I don't know. I'm not really a big Van Vliet guy. And I wouldn't want to trade either. I don't like the CP3 trade rumors. So I think if they're going to get their point guard, it should be in the draft. But again, it's not the deepest draft. But I did write down a few names. I jotted down a couple of guys. Got a little bit of a scouting report on each of them. We're going to go over them really briefly. In order. I guess we'll go in order from my, preferables, my favorites. First one I got LaMelo Ball written down. Now this guy comes with, we talked about him a little bit too in the show, but this guy comes with a lot of ifs. Obviously, I think my biggest con here is LeVar Ball. How is LeVar Ball and the whole Ball family drama going to pan out here in NYC and at Madison Square Garden nonetheless? I just feel like the Ball family, it's kind of like the Kardashians of the NBA. So he comes with a lot of drama, a lot of attention, obviously. But he is a talented kid. I think he's a very good scorer. He's a 3-level scorer. He can hit you shots on the inside. He's got a nice mid-range floater game going. And he can shoot the 3-ball. So he's got a nice, versatile offensive game. His shot is not the most orthodox. It's kind of unorthodox, but it has a good arc on it. And, when he takes smart shots, they go in. And he gets to the rim, again, mostly due to a great crossover. So he can attack the rim, put the ball on the floor, got a good bag of tricks with a tight handle, and he's very crafty around the rim. Melo is an ambidextrous I think that's how you say it. He's an ambidextrous finisher at the rim. He's very crafty around the rim. So you can use both hands. He likes to use the backboard when he needs to. He can finish in traffic. And again, he has a nice floater to use as well. Yes, he has good ball handling and a good shot creator. He can create shots for himself and for others. Another, benefit to him being ambidextrous is using both hands as a passer as well. He can shoot, he can pass, and he can finish with both hands. So that's good. That's a positive there I have also got that he's very shifty with the ball, likes to change speed. So he's not the most athletic, doesn't have that first step to blow by defenders, but he is shifty. He uses his shiftiness and changes speeds, and he can play either an up-tempo game or he can slow it down and play the half-court game at times too. So that's a positive there. But overall, I think he's a player with a high IQ. Sometimes he doesn't always use his, smarts, but when he's locked in, he's got a very high IQ. Great instincts. He reacts and reads defenses quickly. He can read layers of defenses. He can read them very well. He knows what's coming. I think he's got great court awareness, good court vision. He'll find the open man when he needs to. When the help defense comes, he will kick it out and make the accurate pass. He'll make the safe pass, the flashy pass, and things like that. He'll make. He's very good at throwing the outlet pass. So the Melo Ball, most of his game is based around scoring and playmaking. And I think right there, that's really what the Knicks need. So that's kind of why he's my number one option when we're looking at the point guards and the guards of the draft. I think Melo is probably the best of the class. He plays good in pick and roll, can pick and pop as well, can play that game as both a shooter and if he needs to roll out and act as the big, he can do that as well. He's a 6'7" point guard, so he's got good size at that position, right? So those are some of his strengths. I also have, though, I think what's really important here is that somebody like Melo he's very good off the ball. He can play off the ball offensively, and I think that's huge. Most people, I think he has a misleading reputation as being, because he likes to shoot, but he's not ball dominant. It's not like he needs to go ISO to dominate the game. He can be very effective, excuse me, as somebody who plays off the ball and plays as a cutter. He can score. He can play with other scorers. So I think that'll be mesh well with somebody like RJ Barrett. That's not a concern there. You can play him with RJ for an extended period of time and have them share the court together. So I think that's a positive there. He's also a good, solid rebounder for somebody at that point guard position. 6'7", he'll grab you he grabbed, 8 rebounds a night this past season. For his Australian team, the Hawks. So he's a good rebounder for his size, a good scorer, a good 3-level passer, and just does a lot of good things offensively. Now, where the knock on him is that sometimes he's a little bit too smooth, a little too cool, calm, and collected, and that will lead to piss-poor shot selection. That will lead to, deep-ass threes or just contested shots that just bug you, that piss you off at times. So that's a very big concern of mine. And we mentioned that he's not the biggest athlete, not the most explosive. Poor shot selection. I also have written down here that he sometimes tends to drift too much and plays, just kind of floats on both ends. Defensively, he'll try to play, as a run out. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out something happened on my screen. Sorry, but he'll defensively sometimes Melo can, kind of cherry pick and play the run out so much, and try to get back before the possession is over, and that kind of bugs me. And then again, there's that whole LeVar Ball thing. So how does he fit in Madison Square Garden with all the attention, all the drama? But overall, I would still prefer, if we're looking at point guards and if we're going to draft a guard, I still think Melo is the best one available. At least he has the highest ceiling available. We'll put it that way. But excuse me, there are a lot of downsides as well. But that's what I've got for the Melo Ball. I also have Killian Hayes. Now, he was originally the number one guy I was looking at, but kind of I've put him at number 2, my second preference here. But he's another solid option, a good scorer. Maybe eventually he'll be a 3-level scorer. He still has to work on the 3-point shot, which we will touch on in a sec. But excuse me. Don't worry, I'm not sick. But he's a good scorer, can shoot on the inside, can shoot the mid-range effectively enough. But most of his, when he does score, most of his points are generated from penetrating the lane, exceptionally well, using his great burst and suddenness to blow by defenders and get to the rim and, occasionally posterize you, to be honest. He's got an explosive first step to blow by defenders and beat defenses that way. That's where his offensive scoring comes from. He's got good size at 6'4", playing the point guard position, good enough size to where he can be a combo guard, so he's not just a lead guard, but he's a shooting guard as well at 6'4", 216. A creative ball handler, has a lot of moves, an outstanding crossover, shakes and bakes a whole lot, can create his own shot and shots for others as well because of his ability to dribble the ball, and he pushes the pace fast. I think a big part of Killian Hayes' his game is passing, and he has a high IQ. He's a very high IQ passer, very willing passer, a good setup man, good team-oriented guy who will make the winning plays. Another 3-level passer, to be honest with you. And Killian Hayes is a dominant passer when he uses his left hand. He's a very effective live-action left-handed passer, Hayes is. So, draws a lot of fouls, I have written down here, converts those free throws at an exceptional rate as well. So he doesn't just get to the line, but he will convert at the same time. Plays a good effort, puts in a good effort defensively. On the ball, he makes a very good presence on the perimeter. Good instincts playing off-ball defense. Can defend the small threes or defend the twos playing up a position. And he does a good job reading and defending pick and roll defensively as well. Now, I think where his weaknesses come defensively is that he's not the quickest laterally, and he doesn't have the most strength. So that at times is going to, again, limit him defensively in terms of who he's going to be guarding. Could lead to some matchup issues for Killian Hayes. But overall, defensively, he's adequate. And some of the cons, though, offensively, he's got room to improve in terms of, using his other hand. He's kind of too left-hand dominant sometimes. So whether that be passing or scoring, sometimes he's just too left-hand dominant, much like what we see with RJ Barrett when he goes to the rack. And he's kind of small. Again, he's not small. What did I write down? I'm trying to read. He's still very raw. He's got small resume. He's got a very small, tiny resume. Excuse me. I don't know much. I'm reading what I wrote down. I'm trying to read. I'm kind of lost here, but I have it. Small, non-flashy resume because he played, I think it was 12 games this past season in fucking France, and previous 2 seasons he didn't play too much as well. He's on a team with a lot of veterans, so he didn't get a ton of playing time. So he's kind of he doesn't have the resume that the other guards in this draft do. He doesn't have that much of a track record to look at and really be comfortable with. So those are some of the cons with Killian Hayes. So I also have, we don't want to dive too much into these guys, but Tyrese Halliburton and Denny Avdija. I hope I said his name right. Denny is a 6'7" combo forward. He's a playmaking forward, that really relies on skills. Not particularly outstanding in any category, but solid in everything, right? He's great in pick and roll, a great driving kick passer, a good dump off passer, keeps the turnovers while he's diming out assists. He keeps those turnovers at a low rate. He's got good handles, safe handles, not flashy handles, but good, very efficient because of his handles and how effective he uses them. Good off the ball, a great cutter. So again, that meshes well with somebody like RJ Barrett if the Knicks were to go the route of drafting a combo forward like Denny. Good finisher, nice touch at the rim. But overall, I think his biggest strengths are being crafty and versatile and being that good playmaking forward. Very modern forward. A forward with a guard skill set, some would say. He's a hard worker, quick reflexes defensively, also communicates very well defensively, rotates well defensively on screens on both the inside and on the perimeter, and has a high defensive IQ as well. So, good two-way player. Again, not really outstanding in any category, but a player who's going to make plays for his team and really make the winning plays. Now, that begs the question, is this another safe pick, right? Somebody who lacks shooting, lacks athleticism, lacks that extra pop, that extra kick. Is it another safe pick? Can he score enough to be the Knicks guy? Does he have the highest ceiling? I think he's more of a high floor, lower ceiling type of player if they were to go to the route of drafting this kid. So there's that. But that's my thoughts on Denny. I also have Tyrese Halliburton, who's fucking kind of another safe pick, to be honest with you. He's a point guard, but he's not an engine, right? He's not that guy, that floor general who is going to be outstanding at anything. He's another safe pick. A guy who needs work defensively in terms of footwork and technique, angling, bad balance. Sometimes he stands too upright. Halliburton needs help with his discipline defensively, much like a lot of other Knicks. He bites on the fakes way too often. His pick and roll defense is poor. His lack of strength kind of hurts him defensively in terms of being more versatile out there. Not a downhill threat with his scoring. Does most of his scoring off the catch and behind the 3-point line, shooting over 40% both seasons in Iowa State. His offensive strengths, other than catch and shoot, from the 3-point line, not much other than that, and maybe passing. He's a good passer, a sharp pick and roll passer who will go for the flashy pass a lot and really can make every pass in the book. So he's a very sharp passer who shoots the ball well, and I think that's a good, something the Knicks need: passing and shooting. It's just, again, there's not really that much of a ceiling here. I don't think Halliburton is somebody who's that great. But listen, if it comes to it, and if he's on the board and there aren't many, if the mellow ball is not there and Halliburton's name seems to be on the board still, I would take him. I think it's a good option to have. It's a good last resort when you're talking about who's left on the draft board. So that's an option for me. But yeah, those are just a couple of guys. Again, I don't know too much about these guys. I kind of had to read up on them and watch films to get more of a legitimate opinion on them, but that's just my take on that whole thing. And we've kind of talked about these players before in previous episodes. I think it was 10 or 12 episodes ago, we kind of dove into the NBA draft prospects and talked about them a little more in depth. But tonight's episode, guys, I apologize if that was a little too long. Tonight's episode will be mainly NFL talk with Chuk and Mike. So let's dive right into that before we get to this break. We'll be right back, and then as soon as we get back, we'll go right into the video. All right, guys. Or if you're listening to this, we'll go right into the podcast. All right, guys. Real quick, guys, just want to make sure you go to my website, nysportstalkrc.wordpress.com. There should be a button called subscribe and follow. Click on subscribe and follow, and that should take you to a page called Outlets. Over on that page, it'll show you how to follow and subscribe to me on many different platforms, such as all of my social media outlets, such as the blog, and of course the podcast as well. Guys, thanks so much. Let's get back to the show. Alright, guys, so I am with buddy Chuk and my cousin Mike. Today we're just going to talk about, really just touch on the upcoming NFL draft on Thursday, and then we'll talk about the NBA draft maybe to cap things off later on.
And maybe talk about this the last dance.
The Last Dance? You guys been watching that shit?
Dance. Yeah.
Hell yeah, that's just fire.
We gotta talk about that.
Dude, Chuck, I finally watched a couple episodes of that. The first two, I saw it the other day, and dude, that cocaine story was insane.
Traveling cocaine circus, my boy.
Yo,
yeah.
I was laughing so hard when Jordan laughed at the name when they said it. I was laughing. Me and my brother were laughing.
Yeah.
I was like, they really called it
cocaine
that?
circus. Yeah. Dude, a little devil's dandruff never hurt nobody. Just kidding.
Bro, the memes that came out from the episode were hilarious.
Dude. Fucking, the funny thing is they kept picking on that motherfucking GM, Jerry Krause, whatever his name. They kept picking on him.
Dude, the whole stadium booed him. That's what I didn't like, and he didn't even seem like he noticed.
No, I think it seemed like he didn't even care. He just he wanted to be the bad guy.
Yeah.
Chuck, NFL draft tomorrow, man. What do you got? What are we doing?
Rob, I want the Giants to make the pick. I want the Giants to make Simmons the 4th pick in the first round. We need him. We need him. We do need a tackle as well. We do need a tackle, but I feel like Simmons is one of the best. He's one of the best players in the draft, and you can't pass him up.
Mike,
that's a player.
Listen, the way I look at it is Simmons is clearly the best defensive player on the board, above everybody else. I mean, because of the versatility, puts him above Jeffrey Okudah in my mind. But like he said, yeah, we definitely need a tackle. But at the end of the day, we have $60 million in cap space about next year. Laramie Tunsil's going to be a free agent next year. There's going to be plenty of moves to be made. I just think you get a player like that on defense, and you don't know whether he's going to be in the slot and whether he's going to blitz or if he's going to drop back in coverage. You can play safety. We don't have a starting safety right now. We have Jabril Peppers, and then maybe Julian Love will start. So this is really a plug-and-play guy who really fit any need we need on defense right now. He could be our number one pass rusher. He could be our safety, or he can just go on the field. And like I said before, he led Clemson in tackles for loss, total tackles, and sacks. So, I mean, 6'4", 239 pounds, runs a 4.39. You're not going to find it anywhere else. And if the Giants had a little bit of a better defense, they could have won 3 more games last year and made the playoffs. Especially this year with an extra playoff team. You know what I mean? I would go all in for Isaiah Simmons.
Who do you if they do get somebody like Simmons, what do you see them in terms of win-loss this upcoming season? Do you think they're going to improve? Chuck, we'll start with you, and then we'll go to Mike.
I feel like we can improve a little bit. I feel like we're not going to be 12-4 or 13-3, but I feel like we can definitely make a run for the playoffs. I feel like Simmons can push us over the top. I feel like he's that type of player. Our offense was we had a decent offense. Our defense was always on the field.
Right.
We always gave up points. We went to the games. We saw what happened. You know how many points we gave up?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Also, the thing is that Simmons is going to provide game-breaking plays, like a strip sack. We don't have a single person who'd be doing anything like that, and we haven't. Strip sacks, interceptions, game-changing plays that the good teams make. Watch all playoff football. You're going to see good defensive impact plays that directly change the game, and I think he can do that for us. I don't see a reason why we can't be 8-8, and squeak in. Like he said, I don't think we're going to be 12-4, 13-3, but with the NFC East, it's always up for grabs. Look, even this past year, it came down to the last week with the Cowboys and the Eagles. You know what I mean? It's up for grabs, and if we want to be aggressive and take it, you need to take an aggressive pick. Because the easiest way to put it is can't overcomplicate the draft. You have Isaiah Simmons, who's clearly the best defensive player. So it's you want to leave him on the board and then take a Russian roulette guess on which is the best tackle. You know what I mean? Jedrick Wills never played left tackle before. He played right tackle because Tua was a left-handed quarterback. And then, Tristan Wirfs, I don't know. He's athletic. He's good. But none of them are, jump off the screen, unanimous best player like Laramie Tunsil was when he came out. He was going to be the number 1 pick until the gas mask thing. But, it's just that simple. So do you want to guess on a tackle or hope you're making the right pick on a tackle? Or do you want to take the stud linebacker safety who's going to be all over the field and never leave the field?
Exactly.
So
it
comes down now.
We don't want another who's our last right tackle that was
Eric
so
Flowers.
bad? We don't want
Eric
another
Flowers.
Eric Flowers. We don't want.
He was a 9th overall pick too. It's fucking
Please.
trash.
We do not want that.
Yeah,
what-
like, and
what
plus, like, you pick a lineman, though, hold on one second, Bob. You pick a lineman, and, like, you still have to hope that the other 4 linemen are awesome, too, because, like, you know what I mean? Like, you have one really good lineman, but if the other guys aren't blocking, then it doesn't even matter. Like, it has to be a cohesive unit. So the biggest thing with offensive line is fit and, like, chemistry, and, like, there's really no way to know that right now, you know? It's kind of something you get lucky with, almost, I feel like.
I was going to get to that actually next. I want to know, in terms of our offensive line, what do you think we're going to do there? When do you think we'll address it? How do you think we'll address it? Is it going to be through free agency, through the draft, sometime in a later round? I don't know. Chuck, you can start, and then once again we'll go to Mike afterwards.
Like, as much as we want to go with, like, you know, Isaiah Simmons, my guess is that Gettleman is looking at drafting Mekhi Becton, or is it Jedrick Willis?
Wills, yeah.
Well, yeah, like, I feel like that's who he's leaning towards. They were even talking about going with a linebacker, but that's neither here or there. But not a linebacker, quarterback. But I was like, you know, we're gonna leave that part alone. But I think I feel like you could also address the line, like we could address the line in, you know, free agency. I don't know if there's any good like tackles or any good offensive linemen out there for us to go get. But you know,
I mean, as of like the free agency for this year is pretty much done, but you know, we have a lot of good opportunities in the with our second round pick. You know, we have like the 35th overall and 36th overall pick, we have round 2 pick 36 overall, and I'm in my mock draft. I was taking the center, Cesar Ruiz, because if you could shore up that inside with Cesar and Will Hernandez, and that can allow us to run inside the tackles and give us that power run game up the gut. So taking a tackle won't really help the run game that much. I mean, we like to run the ball inside anyway. We don't really pitch it or anything as much as we could. But there's Cesar Ruiz. There's other people. But like you said, free agency next year, we have so much money. And Laramie Tunsil, who's one of the best offensive tackles in the league right now, is going to be a free agent. If we could shore up this draft with, you know what I mean, getting like a solid defensive playmaker and then coming out with a receiver, that leaves me to believe that next year we can just go all in on offensive line, whether it's free agency or draft or whatever. Just then you have one need next year, you know what I mean? But if we could trade back, then and I'm more open to taking a tackle in the beginning, because we go from pick 36 to pick 99 without having pick in between. So there's no, like, that's just really not good. You know what I mean? Like, that's a lot of players go by, and that's where most of the starters come from, that second, third round, you know? And so we would need to get some picks there to do something, you know what I mean? There's a lot of
I'm hearing that some teams want to move up. I'm hearing that the Falcons and the Dolphins are going to be very aggressive in this draft.
Yeah, Patriots too. Patriots are trying to move up too. There's a lot of people trying to move up and a lot of people trying to move down. It's just getting it all figured out before the draft starts is going to be a problem, because who knows technical issues. You know, everybody wants their
everybody's Wi-Fi is working. You know, call Comcast.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, call
Wi-Fi.
He's working.
Did you see that meme where like it was like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers GM or somebody's GM had all these monitors up, and then they showed Dave Gettleman just one little monitor?
One
little paper on it.
That's all you need. Listen, I think he knows what he wants to do. He's got a plan. Him and Joe Judge probably have a plan, and they're gonna attack it. You know what I mean? They're not gonna let anything be decided on the whim. You know what I mean? On the fly. It's gonna be very calculated for them. And I mean, as much as he drives me insane. He's unpredictable, but he has his certain convictions and he sticks to them. You know what I mean? Like, so he's not gonna just be like, oh, fuck it, I'm gonna take this guy. You know, like everything's gonna be planned out for them. And we just hope that they have the right plan of attack. I mean,
so you don't think he's
because he's gone. If he doesn't land this draft, he's gone. So,
yeah, I'll kick him out myself.
Yeah. What do you guys, Chuck? I know you heard about it. Mike, you too. Gronkowski coming out of retirement. You just hear he's gonna join the Bucks now.
Yeah, my brother told me, and I was like in the middle of my class, and I was like, "Are you serious?" I was like, "I know he wasn't like in WWE, like he was doing some, he was doing WWE for like a month or two." And then my brother told me, I'm like, "Are you serious?" I'm like, "You're joking, right?" And he's like, "No, I'm being really serious." I'm like, "Wow, that is insane!" Like,
Yeah.
like I knew Gronkowski wasn't done. I knew he was gonna come back, but I didn't think he was gonna come back like this. I guess he waited for the opportunity for Brady to leave. Then
Yeah.
he's gonna go.
Listen, see that's the biggest point right there is like, I mean, there's interviews with Gronk right after he retired where he was like almost crying in the interview, and he was saying like the joy and like the happiness was just getting sucked out of me, and like I knew I had to fix myself, and I knew I couldn't keep going on like this. He's like, but I also knew what I signed up for, so I had to, I toughed through it, but like it just became too much, and he was literally in tears. So now I'm thinking, clearly him and Brady wanted out of New England. You know what I mean? Like they were just done with the Patriot way or whatever. Like they're done with it. And Gronk said the only person he's going to play with is Tom Brady. So now you give him that opportunity. Of course, he's going to come up. Now it's just what do they do with? They've got Gronkowski. They've got Cameron Brate. They've got O.J. Howard, who's a first-round pick, and then they got Jordan Leggett, who's a tight end, who's the tight end for Clemson at the national championship.
They're gonna get rid of one of them.
Championship tight ends.
Yeah.
Someone's got to go. I'm surprised the Patriots didn't make a push for Howard, but also you can't expect like how long is Gronk gonna really play? Maybe he gives them a year. You know what I mean? And if it's a disaster year, I probably don't see him coming back. But if they win a Super Bowl, then. I don't think it's playing.
We got to see how we got to see how Bruce Arians utilizes him.
Yeah, and Bruce Arians is like the #1 players coach. Everybody wants to play for him. He's like to show up to practice hard, and show up at game time, and that's it. Do whatever you want to do. Like everybody's played for him, loves him. So. It's a different environment. We're going to see how Tom Brady and Gronk can do in a more relaxed environment. Gronk's going to be able to capitalize even more off of his personality down there than he could, At certain times he had to fall in line with Bill Belichick and stuff, but it's going to be cool to see them down there.
Bruce Arians is he's a good players coach, but he's also no nonsense type of coach too. He's old school.
Oh, so yeah.
He's definitely not going to tolerate any nonsense.
Coach.
Yeah.
Won Super Bowl with the Steelers. He's good. He's a really good coach.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of, what do you guys think? How you think Joe Judge is going to fare? We kind of talked about it last time you were both on the show, but I want to hear your thoughts again real quick, just on Joe Judge and what do you think? What do you expect?
I'm indifferent. Like I feel like having that experience with the Patriots, I feel like that helps. Like him learning, like under Bill Belichick, and like him, also under Saban as well. But it's like this is also his first time like coaching, being like the head coach. He was just like the special team coach. So it's gonna be, it's gonna be a different experience for him. So I don't know how, he, based on his press conference, reminded me of Tom Coughlin. He seems like he looks like he's a disciplinarian, like a no nonsense type coach, and also likes to have a good time as well. But I feel like I'm indifferent about it. Like I'm rooting for him. I wish him the best, but I also want to see like how he fares with, controlling the whole team. Trying to take care of like everything with the offense, defense, special teams, etc. Offensive lineman, make sure everything's in line with what he wants to do.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm rooting for him, and I think think about this. He came into the #1 media market in maybe the world, and how much have you really heard from him? Not too much, and he hasn't put his foot in his mouth coming into the season. He hasn't said anything stupid. He didn't mention any players on the Giants roster by name yet, not even in an official interview or anything. So, he's not committing to anybody. But what I think you're going to get from him, which is a good quality from special teams coaches, is he's dedicated to maximizing the potential in everybody on the team. And that's the difference between winning team and losing teams. It's not what your stars do. It's how good you can make the worst person on the field. If you can coach that guy up, you can take the worst person on the field and coach him up, then that's going to pay dividends. You know what I mean? Like, I think he's going to be, I don't know, it just seems like he has like a direction that he wants to go in. And I liked Shermer. Don't get me wrong. I just think that it was a little like free for all kind of with the team. Like, I don't know. It just didn't seem like everybody was all on the same page,
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one thing we're gonna get. We're gonna get more team play this year, and that's what I'm hoping for. Just like seeing guys step up. A lot of people getting on the field, changing personnel, just getting everybody involved and trying to maximize the talent. The one thing he said that stuck out to me the most was like, he goes, I don't want to hear from one of my coaches or one of my assistant coaches what a player can't do. I want to hear what he can do and then how we can get him to maximize that. You know what I mean? Like, that alone, I think, says a lot about him.
Yeah, for sure. I think he obviously, talk is cheap. The whole press conference was great and all, and we're gonna have to see what he does. But no, I think it was a solid pick. We just got to see what he does with whatever he has out there. I don't know if you guys, we're about 20 minutes into talking about NFL. If you guys want to add anything else, because I'm sure there are a lot of things out there. Mike, I don't know if you have anything else to add. Any other opinion?
Just one thing. I want to emphasize that the Giants need to come out of this draft with a big body wide receiver. Because Sterling Shepard had 4 concussions last year alone. Golden Tate's older, you know what I mean? He's not what he was with the Lions or, you know what I mean, or Seattle, wherever he was. But he's not that anymore. And Slayton's good. Darius Slayton's good, but he's not a number one receiver. Look at you can just tell by his build. Like, he's not going to be DeAndre Hopkins. He's not going to be a number one guy. We need a big body red zone threat. We left way too many points on the board going for field goals last year. Way too many points on the board. Yeah. It'd be games where it's 21-9, where it could be 21-21 or 21-17. You know what I mean? Like, we just can't, getting a finisher. We need to get a finisher down there.
That's
really it for that. But.
Our bright spot was Saquon, and he was, and we had times where Golden Tate was good, a bright spot too. Like, he helped out our offense as well. So I would definitely say that we
scored on some big plays. But if you go back and watch all of our touchdowns, they either come from it's either a run from 3 yards out, or it's a big play from 50 yards down the field. We never scored from 20 yards out or 15 yards out. It just doesn't happen. We just left points on the board, and we lost games because of it. We lost that Cowboys game because of the one that was at home. That was bad loss, but we lost that because leaving points on the board. Went down, first possession, field goal. You know what I mean? We got to stop doing that. We got to stop.
Mm-hmm.
That's really it for that.
Do we feel like anybody is gonna move into the top 5? Do we
Honestly,
feel like to the top 5?
Right now, it's completely unpredictable. Unless someone out of nowhere wants to come for a quarterback, but I don't see any of these quarterbacks being good enough to trade up like that. So I don't know.
So who do you think is gonna go before? Who do you think is gonna go after Burrow? Is it gonna be Herbert or is it gonna be Tua?
I personally would take
quarterbacks.
Tua, but I would sit him down and be like, listen, you're not Steve Young and you're not Russell Wilson. You got to stop thinking you can run around like that. You need to stay in the pocket, protect your health, protect the investment. But the way he throws the ball is unmatched compared to any other quarterback. And it's just, the thing is, injuries are an issue, but who's to say you take Justin Herbert and he get his neck snapped? You know what I mean? The next play, where he has the same injury. You know what I mean? People get injured. At least you know what you're dealing with Tua's right now. As far as right now, it is what it is. But I wouldn't pass it up. Because you're either going to be good or is going to be bad and you have another shot at the quarterback. Like,
That's exactly what they said. They said that, you could coach that. You can't coach anything else. Like he could throw the deep ball. He's very accurate. He's like a left-handed Russell Wilson. All he needs to do is, when the play is over, throw it away or get out of bounds.
Exactly.
He tries to plays when they're not there.
Yeah, because in the NFL, it's harder to make those college-style plays where you extend the play and fire it deep and it's a touchdown. Like, those don't really happen as much unless you're Pat Mahomes and, like, chances, you know what I mean? Like, there's no one else who's Pat Mahomes, so. And, like, Jordan, I think they're doing Jordan Love a big disservice by comparing him to Mahomes. Because, like, he's not him. He's not that good. He's really not that good. He had one good season in college, and that was it. And, like, there's been so many quarterbacks that have a strong arm and can move in the past 20 years, but none of them got drafted because there was no one to compare them to. Like, you weren't comparing them to Pat Mahomes. Now he's got that, and someone's going to take him in the first round, and it's gonna suck for them.
Like how they're gonna do the virtual thing. I want to see if there's gonna be like technical difficulties and stuff like that. Like
I think they made they're allowing. I think they're allowing for like a couple extra minutes on the clock in case something happens. So they'll give you the benefit of the doubt for the time. I think I saw that somewhere. I'm not sure, but
okay.
25 hours, 36 minutes, and 53 seconds as I speak. That's when the draft will begin. Tomorrow night, guys. Tomorrow night.
Fingers crossed, guys. Fingers crossed.
Listen, man.
Fingers crossed.
I just want a winning product, man.
Man.
I just want a winning product again. So whatever the hell we can do. I don't have as much knowledge on the Giants as your typical diehard fan will, like you guys, but I think we all just want to fucking win. We all just want to win.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. At the end of the day, there's no real wrong pick. I mean, in this draft, there's no one I see on the board who's like, wow, you took him. You know what I mean? Like, it's not going to be that shock and awe factor. It's just, everybody's a good pick. It's just trying to get the most you can out of it, That's where everybody starts to conflict, Right. At the end of the day, we're going to get a new player who's going to be better than we had before, hopefully, and, I'll support whoever we pick, I'm not going to be that dude who's like, fuck this, like,
if the Lions,
we take a lineman, let's hope that works.
If the Lions are stupid and they don't draft, and they don't draft the Cuda, we might as well get him, because we can use a corner. We can use a corner We got Bradbury now. We got Baker going into his second year. We drafted a lot of corners last year. I mean, I think Okuda's the best corner coming out in a while just because, like, the last couple drafts, the best corner on the list was not a top 5 pick or not even projected to be a top 5 pick. You know what I mean? Like, they don't do that for no reason. Like, if you're taking a corner, I think he's that good. It's just, see, I would be happy with that. I think Simmons, you get more out of him. And he can cover the slot and stuff just as well. Like, but in terms of like that one-on-one lockdown on the outside against your best receiver, yeah, Kuda's probably, you know what I mean, not a bad pick. Like, I'd be okay with it. Are we staying in a 3-4 or are we in a 4-3?
I think we're moving back to a 4-3.
4-3? Okay.
I believe. It's also going to depend on the personnel, but you know what I mean, exactly who we bring in.
Okay.
What do you prefer?
I just heard. Wait. Say that again, Rob.
What do you prefer, 4-3 or 3-4?
4-3.
I think I prefer 4-3, and I think that is better for Simmons too because he's gonna. When you have less linebackers, he can cover more ground. I mean, the only real difference is like in 3-4, it's like your outside linebackers are kind of like your DNs. You know what I mean? Like it's just that.
Simmons is not a rusher. Like he's a good speed rusher. He would have to get around. Like if he gets on an old lineman, they're gonna push him around.
Yo, watch the tape though. He comes flying through the middle on those sneaky blitzes. Yeah. The thing is, his closing speed is the biggest thing. He can start 15 yards off the ball, and when you say hike, he's right in front of you. Like he covers ground real fast. And this day of age with the Lamar Jacksons and Russell, everybody who can run like
Yeah,
that.
you need to
a
catch
quarterback spy.
You
need a
need to
spy.
catch them. Yeah.
So if we played, listen, the way that, not this past year, but the year before, Lamar Jackson's rookie year, he was 8-1 when they brought him in as a starter. He got into the playoffs when they played San Diego. They brought in their backup safety and put him at linebacker and said, go wherever Lamar Jackson goes. And they shut him down in that playoff game. And they won. That's the only way to beat them is to have someone who's athletic enough to spy and actually, and with 4.39 speed, you know what I mean? There's no one getting away from that. He's got to protect the outsides. It's just, he's got to cover tight ends. Because even Jabril was getting beat with the tight ends last year. You know? O.J. Howard beat Jabril Peppers into the end zone. Luckily, he dropped the ball, but that would have changed that game against the Bucs last year. We would have lost.
Yeah.
I just think you can't go wrong with Simmons. Like, even if he's just a good safety or just a good linebacker, if he's good at one thing, it doesn't matter. He can.
We can guarantee, he's a sure thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Thing.
It's
And
and
Gettleman said once, he said, you have to ask yourself when you take someone at 4, would they be a top 4 pick in any draft or just this year? And it's like, I think Simmons would be a top 4 pick in almost any draft. Or top 5, you know what I mean? Almost any draft that he came out in, you know?
Right, there's a high floor there, right? It's a
very,
safe pick.
very high
Worst
floor.
comes to worst. We're about 28 minutes into the podcast BD4. So guys, if you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe to BD4 on all the platforms we have. Go to my website nysportstalkrc.wordpress.com. Guys, I'm going to switch over real quick. We'll transition, cap off with a little bit of NBA draft talk. That's obviously it's still a bit up in air. We don't know if the season is still under. We don't know when that's going to continue or if it will at all. But
it's not happening the day they said it was going to happen.
No, it's obviously way past that, and I don't think the NBA as a whole is going to continue. I think at this point it's probably best just to shut it down. And I'm in that mode right now where I'm kind of just over it, and I think it's just going to be finished. So I'm kind of moving on, and I want to talk a little bit about the upcoming NBA draft, specifically for the Knicks, because unfortunately I'm a giant Knicks fan. I've watched all 82 games, 48 minutes a night. Something's wrong with me for sure, but I do it. And this draft, obviously the Knicks need as much talent as they can get. They need to fill some holes on that roster. And this draft isn't necessarily the deepest draft. It doesn't have all the talent in the world. But I have been doing a little bit of research. I've been watching some film, reading up on some scouting reports, and I jotted a couple guys down. In particular, it's a bunch of guards. I know LaMelo Ball, I guess we'll start with him. LaMelo Ball is kind of the guy who's been drawing all the hype. So what do you got? Do you guys think LaMelo is going to be all-star caliber? Is he going to be solid, maybe just a normal starter? Or do you think he's going to – I don't know. What do you guys think of him?
LaMelo, compared to his brothers, he's good. But
Probably the better one?
Yeah, man, I would say no, we got to see how he's going to fare in the NBA. But, like Lonzo, he's doing a good job where he is right now. But, you know, he's a better shooter. You know, like, I would say better passer or all around, like, IQ, like, but he still needs to learn. Like, there was something, he still needs to clean up, like, defense and, he needs to work on his IQ.
There's a couple things. Yeah, there's a couple of things. I wrote down a few things. He's obviously a very good scorer. He can score on all 3 levels. Hit your shots from the interior. He can hit on the perimeter, and he's got a nice mid-range floater as well. He could shoot. When he shoots, he's very effective off the dribble, but I think the percentages are going to vary game to game because of his shot selection. That's a big thing.
Yeah.
A lot of times he likes to shoot those 35-footers or likes to shoot over taller defender or tries to make the tough shot as opposed to making the winning play. Mm-hmm. Right, and so that's one of my concerns there. He's kind of a crafty point guard, more as opposed to being an athletic wing. So that's something there. He's not the most athletic. And then obviously, he does have a lot of talent. He can score, and he's a very high IQ passer when he does make those passes. He's a very flashy passer. But the biggest thing here I'm concerned about is if the Knicks do go after somebody like Ball, how the hell are they going to deal with LeVar in Madison Square Garden in NYC? How the hell is this?
Listen. LaMelo's good. He's a good player. I think that his name, would we be talking about him the same way without, that last name? I don't know. But where there's smoke, there's fire. You know what I mean? Like with everybody. And that's just been, people shy away from stuff like that. They do in the draft. It's unfortunate, but you know what I mean? Like Laramie Tunsil could have been, I know it's football, but could have been the overall pick, the gas mask thing, he slipped. Like, people, when there's smoke, there's fire. And, I don't know, who knows that, that his style of play is going to even really translate to the NBA. Playing with those weird leagues in Australia or whatever, it's like, you can kind of do whatever you want, dude. You're the American guy coming over, you can do whatever. But, to bring that to the Garden where there's so much tradition and history and, a certain way of doing things, I just don't see it fitting in. Me personally, I would see the Knicks Obi Toppin. Jams it down, and even if we're not going to, no one we take is going to fix us next year. We're going to suck regardless, probably, going into next year. But you get someone, you give a cheer about, you know what I mean? Those couple slam dunks that happen, you know what I mean? Those alley-oops. You give them something to bring some energy and some interesting. I like him, and then would like to see where does James Wiseman go? He was a unanimous first overall pick until he got expelled, not expelled, but he got suspended, let's say, from playing for Memphis because of the whole thing with Penny Hardaway and you know what I mean? But he only played 10 games, and then they suspended him. So who knows? He's a center, I think, but who knows what's going to happen with him?
At this point, I'm all for just getting the most talented guy out there. But at the same time, I think there's got to be a balance. I think the Knicks are in desperate need of a point guard, and they're in desperate need of talent. And if you're going to look at those two things, I think there are a few guys on the board who play. There's a lead guard I'm looking at for French. His name is Killian Hayes. I've been following him for a little bit. Watched some scouting reports on him in film. He's a good scorer. He penetrates the lane. He's got good size at his position, so he can play the point guard, the lead guard. He's a good combo guard, can play shooting guard, off the ball. Creative ball handler. I think the Knicks need somebody who can handle the ball and be aggressive out there. He's a good passer. But the thing with Hayes is he's not a great shooter, and that's the thing the Knicks really need. Is that guy out there in the draft that can really play make and shoot at the same time? I'm not sure if they have a guy in this current draft class that can do a little bit of both. The Knicks need that. So maybe their best option is just going and getting that most talented big man or whoever. Toppin's an option, or
is Cole Anthony coming?
Cole Anthony is he's declaring for the draft. The thing with him, a lot of people are comparing him to somebody like DSJ. And if you've watched the Knicks, DSJ, exactly. He's kind of, a lot of people think Cole Anthony makes the losing plays, makes the plays just to score as opposed to the benefit of the team. He's somebody who could be a little bit reckless, but I don't know, man. There's just no, I'm looking at this list. There's no guy that stands out in front of everybody else. So I don't know what they're going to do, the Knicks. I just hope they do what is best, and it's kind of just
make some trades.
They need
Bradley Beal.
That's what we were talking about in the group chat.
Yeah.
They gotta make a decision. The Knicks gotta make a decision what direction they want to go in. Do you want to draft are you trying to draft a player this year who you're going to build around, or are you trying to draft someone who's going to fit into what you're going to do forward? Because those are two totally different things. You know what I mean? If you want to pick someone who's going to fit into whatever you plan on doing going forward, then your options are a little bit more open. I think if you're going to pick someone who you want to just build around, you got to go best talent.
Right. And I think
I think we could build around RJ if you just get him someone to, take a little bit of the heat off of him. You can't bring the ball up the court all the time.
Right. And I think it's a good starting. Barrett and Robinson are definitely a good starting point. I think they are promising options to build around. The problem is getting that core around them. And if you do want to go the route of trading for somebody good, you just have to be careful. You don't want to trade away, too much to where that star coming in has nothing around him. So I think there just needs to be hopefully Leon Rose is smart here. Their new president. Hopefully they can fix everything up there in that front office, because that's obviously where it's going to start in New York. And we'll see where it goes from there. I don't want to talk Knicks too much because they bore the shit out of me, and we've talked about them plenty here on BD4 before. So, guys, if you have any last thoughts either on the NFL draft, the NBA, or anything in sports right now, be sure to add them right now if you want. Anything you want to add?
My brother just told me that the Leonard Williams just signed a tender with the Giants.
He signed the franchise. Yeah. So I guess that means we're stuck with him this year.
Wait, who's Leonard Williams?
Leonard Williams, the D lineman we traded for the Jets. We traded 3rd round and 5th round to the Jets for him, and we got him but his deal was up after this past season, so we had to either franchise tag him or sign him long term. We franchise tagged him, luckily, because I don't want to sign him long term. We don't really know what we're gonna like. We didn't get a big enough sample size from him last year, and this year will be more accurate reading because we're gonna have more players around him. But he's with us for this year. I hope we can get it. Yeah. And just so see, he can make. He's not a sack guy, but he is a good run stuffer.
We have a lot of run stuffers.
I know. But we still don't stuff the run because we don't got any linebackers. I mean, now we got Martinez and Fackrell. Martinez led the NFL. Led like the NFL in tackles, maybe. He's not amazing,
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see.
Yeah, like a lot of people were like with the comments when we signed Blake Martinez. Like I was looking at the comments on Facebook. Some people were indifferent about him. They were like, he's a good tackler. Like he just can't cover. He's not a good coverage linebacker.
I feel like that's a little bit. It's a teeny bit misleading, just because in his scheme, he was kind of what they would call a cleanup crew. They let the D-line rush as much as they want, and his job was just to sit back there and clean up whatever came underneath him. You know what I mean? So his tackles are definitely inflated. He was just never really asked to cover too much, and due to the zone schemes and stuff, he always covered his responsibility. There's a lot of the time the play calling didn't match up, and that's where he got beat. But right. I'm optimistic about him. So I think the Giants can do something this year. Not win a Super Bowl, but do something.
You guys been watching? You guys see that last weekend? They were showing the Giants Patriots Super Bowl.
Oh yeah, I watched it 3 times since I've been quarantining.
Yeah, seriously. All right, guys. So pretty much, what it is for the NFL and the Giants. I think we're all in agreement that Simmons is probably the best option. And as for the Knicks in the draft, I just think they either need to get somebody who has the most talent. Kind of just get somebody who has the balance of fitting in and somebody who's talented. I think just find the right balance there. And guys, I can't thank you enough for joining the show. This is episode 107 now. So guys, I appreciate you both coming on. And for those who are listening or watching, be sure to go to my website, nysportstalkrc.wordpress.com, to follow, subscribe, and all that fun stuff. Guys, just want to remind you, this episode is sponsored by Anchor. Anchor, a free podcasting platform that distributes your podcast for you and allows you to record straight from your phone. Guys, go to anchor.fm or just download the Anchor app. Both of you, Chuck, Mike, thanks guys so much for joining, and that's it. Ciao.
See you later.